Welcome to the final Autocar India podcast of 2013. We're back at the office of Hormazd Sorabjee, Autocar India's editor, to talk about the best cars of the year gone by in 2013. But Hormazd, before we get to those cars, a quick word from you on two cars that will be coming in the early part of 2014, and they're both prominently featured in this month's issue, in the January issue of Autocar magazine, the S-Class and the new Honda City. Your thoughts on both those cars?
Well, I think the S-Class really, it's always been talked about or Mercedes have made a bold claim, this is the best car in the world. And quite frankly, I think, for the first time, that's a really valid claim of theirs. It really is an amazing car. It really raises the bar on every front in terms of refinement, in terms of features, luxury, what have you. Obviously, they're launching it with a very the high-end version, which is the S500, which is going to be around 1.6 crores. Very, very expensive. But really, I think what you've got is some amazing technology in there. And really, it's a really special car. I mean, if there was a fault, I would say it's not so much a driver's car. But, this car is all about low pulse rate travel, and that's what makes the S-Class really special.
And talking of low pulse rate travel and, Mercedes saying best car in the world ahead of its competition, we actually put it into a comparison with a Rolls-Royce and a Bentley, and it didn't do too badly.
No, it didn't. I think, quite frankly, it came out on top because obviously the Rolls-Royce is of a different level. And, in terms of luxury, there's nothing quite to match that, the kind of the ride you get, just that regal feeling. It's so majestic, it's just amazing. So, but then you got to take the price into consideration. Bentley, again, a different car, much more sportier, much more harder edge, especially on Bombay roads, and again got its own charms. But I think overall the S-Class as a package, it doesn't have the snob value of the other two or the exclusivity either, but really technically it does the job.
And a quick word on the city as well, Hormazd. I know we've covered it extensively in the magazine. We have videos, test drive videos up as well. But just your thoughts on just standing back and taking a look at the new city and what it's doing for Honda. And is it what the customers and consumers expect?
Well, I think I'll take the last bit of your question first. It is what the customers and consumers expect, and I think that's really what Honda is doing. And quite frankly, maybe purists will be disappointed because Honda is known to have free-spirited engineers and people are just giving a lot of technology sometimes when it's not even valid. Like if you remember the earlier City, they gave you a USB drive, no CD player, saying that this is the way it is, which actually perhaps that was a bit ahead of its time. But now Honda has gone back because certain older customers want a CD player. They don't want to be fiddling around with sticks and plugging in their iPhones and stuff like that. So clearly, I think Honda has become a lot more customer focused. It's not so much engineering driven as before. It's going to be a lot more customer driven. And in that sense, there are some disappointments. The car is more of an evolution. It's really doesn't break new ground like the earlier City did over its predecessors. But I think it has all the makings of a huge market success because really they've listened to the voice of the customer.
And for those of you who haven't been watching the Autocar India website, the new Honda City is going to launch on the 7th of January, and we'll have all the prices and variant details for you when that happens. Moving now, Hormazd, to the cars of the year gone by. I want to talk about 2013 and some of the standout cars for you across segments. And what better place to start with than the car we just gave the Car of the Year award to, the Ford Ecosport. Car, compact SUV, I don't know, it straddles both segments, seems to do that really well.
No, absolutely. I think the Ecosport, no doubt, is the game changer of 2013 and fittingly deserved our Car of the Year award. But having said that, I think Ford could have launched it a bit better. I think Ford really need to get their act together. There's really a lot of complaints about deliveries. People just not committing to when the cars are going to come, and that really is hurting Ford's reputation, Ford as a brand. And it's really unfortunate because the EcoSport really is an outstanding product. It's really moved the goalposts and everything in terms of whatever you look at it, value for money, the kind of equipment that's been packed into a car of this price. So really huge demand for it still, but I think Ford is unable to cope with it yet. So I think that's really the main challenge for Ford.
And is there a lesson for Ford perhaps from some of the other manufacturers? Because you saw the Grand i10 and the Honda Amaze launch, two other very significant cars that launched this year. And both those cars, lots of initial demand, but they seem to be coping perhaps a little bit better with delivering on that large scale.
I think so. I think it's all about ramping up and really, having the kind of, let's say, I wouldn't say infrastructure, but just the bandwidth to be able to cope with such demand, which Ford obviously doesn't have. Ford traditionally, I call it being a one-trick pony. They can only focus on one model at a time. I mean, if you see right now, the Ecosport is the flavor of the month. Figo has sort of petered off, and the other models are completely insignificant. So clearly, Ford really needs to have the bandwidth to be able to handle such scale, especially when you get the orders. And companies like Honda, and in particular Hyundai, which sell in hundreds of thousands, manage to do that a lot better.
The interesting thing for me about both the Amaze and the Grand i10, Honda's first diesel engine, Hyundai bringing out a small capacity diesel engine. What is the future of small capacity diesel technology now, given the fact that, going into the new year, prices this year at least have been, the gap between petrol and diesel, the prices have been contracting. But do you see a future for small diesels? Is petrol coming back as it seemed to indicate a couple of months ago?
I think petrol definitely is coming back, and Mr. Moily, the Minister for Petroleum, at our awards, he was the chief guest, categorically said that the gap is going to be closing, and they are looking at market-driven prices. So in that scenario, clearly petrol is definitely making a comeback, and I think that really puts a challenge on the small capacity diesel engine because they're very expensive for that segment of the market. And from what we've heard, that the nano diesel is going to be axed. That's most likely what's going to be happening. I think Tata have decided to completely put on hold the nano diesel. So I think a lot of people may have been expecting at the Auto Expo, but the fact is it's not going to be really shown at the Auto Expo. So I think clearly, this is the way the market is going. I think people are moving away from diesel at the low end of the market, and that's going to be predominantly petrol driven. Of course, at the higher end, diesel still makes more sense because the delta or the price differential between petrol and diesel is a lot smaller than it is at the lower end, and that's why diesels make a lot more sense. Plus, they're much more refined, and then you've got the advantages of great torque and efficiency.
Another car that really impressed all of us a lot this year, Hormazd, the Skoda Octavia. Now, I just got a call from someone saying that dealers were quoting 4 to 5 months waiting period on some models of the Octavia. And that for a car where for a fact that Skoda have had service and the typical servicing issues that people keep talking about is pretty impressive car.
It is because the Octavia really is a known name. Skodas have a certain appeal about them. They're very desirable cars, Skodas, because they have this really seductive combination of a very sharp design, great interiors, they're great to drive, they feel very solid, they're very loaded, they're very rich feel about it, and they're not ridiculously expensive either. So that kind of outweighs the fact that the company still has not sorted out its sales and service reputation, which still very much is an issue because we keep getting letters constantly about them. But I think the company knows that if they don't sort that, they're going to be history. So I think I'm quite optimistic, and I think there will be some steps taken in that direction.
Let's keep going up the scale now to slightly more expensive cars. And if I had spoken to you 2 years ago even, would you have told me that it's possible that BMW would bring a car like the 1 Series into India, or that it would be so nice to drive in Indian conditions?
No, I think absolutely. I think one can't imagine that the luxury car brands are going to be racing down the pyramid to chase, let's say, buyers from a much wider base. So, but that clearly is the case because the hunt is now to find customers everywhere. So even if they get a few customers, it will add incremental volume. In the case of Mercedes, I think about 25% of their sales are going to come from their NGCS or new generation compact small cars, or compact cars. So clearly, I think that's the strategy for a lot of these manufacturers, and that's putting pressure on brands like the Honda Accord, which has been discontinued, and Volkswagen Passat also, which has stopped being made. Though the company claims it's not, but in the dealerships it's not available. We don't know when the 2014 model is out. So really, I think these are the new dynamics of the luxury end of the market.
And a quick word again on the 1 Series in particular. We had it for a while at the magazine. You've driven it a lot in the city. Good mix of practicality and fun to drive factor?
I think so. I think it is very practical. It's quite spacious, remarkably so, given the fact that it's a front engine rear wheel drive car, which doesn't lend itself to good packaging, but BMW have done a good job. So I think it's fantastic to drive, much better than the A-Class. But I think maybe the downside has got a little awkward looks, which not everyone likes, and especially from the rear it looks a bit plain, and even the interiors really are not that exciting. So really I would say more substance than style. That's what the 1 Series is about.
Staying with style and substance, E63 AMG, as an E-Class owner, Do you feel like trading your car in for that?
Oh, well, absolutely. And I think, trip to Mahabaleshwar on New Year's is going to be in the E63 AMG, and I'm really looking forward to that because I think it has an amazing blend of performance and practicality and everyday usability. Can take the family, go long distance, don't have to worry about it. It's not fragile, and it goes like hell.
Another car that you've, I think, taken to Mahabaleshwar this year, the Cayman S from Porsche, outstanding sports car.
To me, that's the best sports car you can buy today, period. Just the combination of the value, the handling, it's got just everything you need. And it's just sublime the way it just handles. And we drove it down that road, the Poladpur Ghat, which was really superbly paved at that time before the monsoons wrecked it. And it was just one of the best experiences we've had in a long time.
And Hormazd, as we get close to wrapping up, a quick word on JLR growing from strength to strength in global markets and a good year in India as well. Two outstanding products this year, the Range Rover Sport, for example.
And the F-Type.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about both, but Range Rover Sport first.
Yeah, Range Rover Sport, absolutely fantastic. I mean, again, it's such a versatile vehicle. It's great on-road, off-road. It really feels fantastic. I think the only thing that lets it down is it's just too expensive. If they don't start assembling these cars here, the price is going to be crazy. So they really need to do that. So I think that's really the downside is they've just overpriced themselves the minute they touch their wheels on Indian shores. So they really need to localize over there. The F-Type, again, fantastic vehicle, really super to drive, really evocative, sounds great, and really I think it's just absolutely brilliant.
And that F-Type coupe they showcased in LA, would that be perhaps even more suited to Indian conditions?
I completely think so. Because I'm not a big fan of convertibles, especially in Indian conditions. For several reasons is that A, it's too hot and dusty to enjoy the car top down, and typically convertibles, they're just never as stiff as a coupe is. So I think coupe really, it even looks fantastic. The coupe really looks great, and I think that's the one to go for.
Hormazd, thank you so much, and Happy New Year in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year to all of y'all, and look forward to an exciting 2014.
And a great year's driving in 2014. We will have all the coverage you expect right here on Autocar India's website and YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, and happy holidays.